The BMW has already made such a transformation, and we're only really just getting started.
And for you guys that have been following this Z3M from the start will know exactly how bad it was when it first turned up. Overall, it was full of dirt and grease, and believe it or not, there were parts being held in place by tape. The lights on this needed a serious headlight restoration, and the calipers were seized. But so far, we've deeply cleaned the engine bay, we've sorted out a few brackets, having a couple of them powder coated, and overall, just done as much in the engine bay as we could, with not getting too carried away. We restored the headlights by sanding them down and relacquering them and replacing all of the bulbs. We repainted the calipers in red, replacing all of the pistons and the seals, the brake pads and the discs. And finally, had the wheels powder coated in this dark chrome silver with having new tyres fitted.
I want to get this rear screen out of this tailgate because it's starting to delaminate, so this needs replacing. And I want to get the front screen out because we're going to be painting the roof and the pillars, and it's got a few chips in it as well, so we're going to be replacing this and the rear screen for OEM originals. And I want to get the roof and the pillars painted first on this so I can get the car back in here on the ramp so it can stay in here. So as I paint the panels, I've got something to bolt them onto to keep them out of the way. Now I'm just hoping that Paul from Total Windscreens can get out this afternoon to get these screens out.
Thankfully, Paul made the exception and come through. But he turned up with what looked like some washing line and a drill attachment. Now, I'm pretty sure it wasn't all that long ago that these guys were taking screens out using wire. And talk about going full circle. Years ago, you used to put screens in using string. And now these guys are taking screens out using string. And if you think about it, that's actually pretty cool.
With these screens now out, I can finally go ahead and make a start on getting this roof and these pillars prepped, ready for paint. And you won't believe it, but I've already found an issue. And that's the frame that holds the sunroof to the car. And just look at how rusty that is going. Oh my God, I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, that when I take this sunroof out, I managed to get this unbolted, that it's just this that's going rusty, and it's not affected the car. But before I'm gonna know any more about that, I need to get this roof lining out so I can actually take this sunroof out, and I also need to get this aerial out so I can paint the roof, because I don't really want to be masking this out. Now, when I stripped this fully out, the only thing I couldn't take off the car was this rear tailgate, and that's because the glass was in it, and it was covering up this wiring, which is all clipped in place. So now this screen is out, I can finally get this unclipped, pull it through, and take this tailgate off. Let's just try not to bend it. Oh, you are joking me. Wow. Oh. I reckon if I push my finger through that, that'd go straight through. That's bonded in as well.
It's going to be an absolute cow to get that out.
Well, looks like Paul's coming back out. Great. Paul's now on his way back out to take the sunroof out because it's bonded in. I would have a go at removing it, but I don't have the right tools and I don't want to damage the roof at all. So I think I'm just going to leave this to the professionals. So I'm going to wait for him to come out to do that. And in the meantime, I think I'm just going to make a start on getting this roof and these pillars prepped. There's a couple of little dents on it, but it's pretty straight. And then I want to get this in the spray booth and get it in for a coat of primer. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pick these up, but if you look at these strip lights and the reflection of the paint, there is a dent just here. Oh, there you go. It's very minor. And there's a dent. Now this one's even smaller once again, just here. So can I, oh there you go, look. So yeah, 2 dents in this whole roof.
Once I'd unclipped the wiring, I could then get the tailgate off, which made it a lot easier to remove without the glass in it. I then made a start on getting this roof sanded down using some 120 grit discs. Now, it didn't take me all that long to do. I was probably on this about an hour, and I'm pretty sure that the paint on this roof was factory, but it was so hard to tell because it's just so flat and dull. Now, the plan was to get this paint stripped. I'm going to do that on the rest of the panels, but it's a bit messy. The screens are out and I just didn't want to get it everywhere. And I'd done a little test piece to start with, and like I said, it looked like the paint was factory, and I just knew it wasn't going to take me very long to do. And then Paul was back once again to take this sunroof out after realising that it isn't actually bolted in, it's actually bonded in.
Nope. I didn't realise that this was rusty in all four corners. Look at how bad this has gotten. Oh my god. So this is definitely going to want replacing. Now I have rung up BMW for a price on this, and there's a little bit of good news, but there's also a little bit of bad news. And the good news is that you can buy this frame separate to the glass. But the bad news is
that this frame will cost you £550 plus VAT to replace.
And if I go ahead and put the VAT on the top of that, that makes it £660 including VAT. And I'm not sure if it's because BMW are just really expensive, or the fact that this is a Z3M and they're just charging way over the odds. But it seems that any time I ring up BMW to get a price for a part on this, it just seems to be ridiculously expensive. And also, this part of the roof that that frame sits on is actually really good. I mean, look at that. That is really surprising. I really thought that this part of the roof was going to be really rusty, especially with how bad that is. There's no way I would have ever said it was going to be this clean. I mean, there's no sign of any rust at all, so you wouldn't even know. So that is really good news. Just had a load of bits turn up from BMW, and I thought I'd just quickly take you guys through this little haul of parts, because we're waiting on a lot of bits, and just gives you guys a little bit of an idea to how much these jobs can go on a bit, because, you know, this was just in for a repaint, and it's definitely gone on a bit since then. So we've got new kidney grills, and that's because the ones in the bonnet are dented. What's in here? Man, I love opening boxes. Oh, it's not even in the packaging. That's the new indicator. Just make sure that's not broken. No, that's all good, because the one in the bumper is broken. Not sure what that is, but I'll open it up anyway in a bit. I think most of this in here is just going to be clips and screws and stuff. Now, if you guys have been following or watched back to episode 1 of this Z3M rebuild, restoration, repaint, these are the plastic trims that were in the boot. There was one either side. They were a pig to get out, and one of them was really like bodged up and glued back together. So that's to replace that, which is good. New badges. And yeah, just mostly clips and screws. I mean, look at this. Like, this is just absolutely crazy. And the thing is it's just remembering where all this stuff goes. Oh. But I haven't got to worry about that just yet, because what I do need to think about is to start getting some primer down on this roof. So I've just primed the two little areas that need filling, and I'm now thinking that this isn't going to need to see any filler at all. I think the dent was more in the paint than it was in the metal. I'm definitely going to be able to just block that little bit of primer down, and that's going to be good to go. But this one, not so much. That's definitely going to need a little bit of filler in it. Now, don't always use this aerosol epoxy primer. This is just literally because these are two tiny little dents, and this epoxy aerosol primer just saves me so much more time than getting this in the spray booth, masking it out, epoxy priming it, getting it back out of here, filling it, masking it out, getting it back in the spray booth, to hypo prime it, to get it back out here, to prep it, to get it back in the spray booth, to paint it. It's a bit of a process. And I'm still going to be epoxy priming this, but all I'm doing is shortcutting my way to highball primer, because I can use the epoxy primer as an etch and then highball prime straight onto it. So when I get it back in here, rather than it being the epoxy primer, it's going to be high build. So I can then rub that down, we can get this in the spray booth for paint. And I'm just hoping for you guys out there that have Z3Ms, aren't sat at home watching these videos with your missus, because it's probably more than likely by now that she's given you an earful at the realization of how much it is to buy parts for one of these. And in the next few episodes, guys, we're going to be getting this in paint, and also I have some really nice paint strippers to try out. Actually, you need a license for it, so I'm not sure how I'm going to get on with that. So hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
I like how you just finishing what I started.
Mate, I've done all of it.
with your trusty pen knife. Whee!